Welcome to another episode of Sound Check Tech. My name is Seth, and today we are going to be taking tracks that we've previously bounced out or exported out of Pro Tools, and we're going to be importing them into a sampler called the SPDSX Pro so that you can use them for your live performances. So without further ado, Dad, take it away.
I've got the app on the screen there. I've got my folder open with all of the tracks that I bounced out of Pro Tools. They're ready to go. And then here's the app. So that's what here's what the SPDSX looks like on the outside. I'm going to click this load the data. Alrighty. And so here's the app. So it's a great piece of gear. Let me tell you. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take all of the files that I brought out of Pro Tools and I'm going to import them into the wave list. Alrighty. So beautiful thing about this is you can take them all at one time. Now it does take a few minutes for them to all get in there, but it's worth the wait. So you grab it and you dump them into that little window and you say, yes, I want to import by clicking that button. And here we go. So one of the things that I love about this sampler is that you can do 200 kits. Now this is made for a drummer usually. So the terminology in this box is all drummer terminology. So instead of songs, they say they use the terminology, they're kits. Now each one of those kits is a song. So when we refer to kits, we mean songs in this particular setting. So each one of those kits has the pads. It has 9 pads up on the front, on the top, and then there's a couple of foot switches that have slots that you can put tracks on. So altogether 9, and they all have 2 layers. So you have basically 18 tracks, stereo tracks that you can put into the box. And then you got an additional 4 with the foot switches that you can sync up to. So it's a very powerful thing. I don't ever use more than that many tracks. As a matter of fact, today we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We only have 10. So we're going to have plenty of room on the first edition, the first 9 pads that we're going to put all of these tracks in and be able to mix them within that box. It looks like our waves are still loading in, just to let you see the disc. So we did 10 of those MP3s, and they're going in, and right now it's on the last one. And as soon as they're all in, I'm going to be able to put those into a kit and distribute them on the different pads and the different layers. And we'll be able to do it. Okay, it's all finished up. So now you see the screen here. So what I normally do is there they all are. They incidentally, when you import them, they always are at the last of the list. So you have to scroll down on this wave list, get to the end, and that's where the folders. That's where the waves are, the MP3s. So looking at this screen here. Each one of these pads, there's the 9 pads. That is the same, that represents the pads on the front of the box itself that you tap with your stick. Okay, that's what these are. And each one of these pads has 2 layers. So that's 2 stereo tracks that you can put WAV files or MP3s in. And then when you hit that one pad, you can set it so that it all syncs up and they all start at the same time. That's the beautiful thing about this sampler. So let's go ahead and start. I always put the bass on pad 2, layer A. I always put the click on pad 1, layer A. The guide, I always put the guide on pad 1, layer B. The drums I always put it on pad 3. The electric guitar, I always put it on 6. The fiddle, I put it on the layer B of pad 7, and I put the steel guitar on layer A of that 7. The perk track I put on probably layer on pad 4, layer B. and the acoustic is on pad 4, layer A. On 5 is where the piano will be, layer A, and if I had B3, I would put it on layer B, or if I had some strings of some sort. I only have one guitar on this particular song. A lot of times we'll have 2 and 3 guitars. We have other tracks that we do that. And then we're not, because it's Claire and I, we don't use the background vocals because we sing it ourselves, and we're a duo. So, and we always have one person in the band that sings with us. So we have enough singers, so we don't bring in our background vocals. But you could, and you could put it on another layer here. So it looks like I've got everything layered in. Alrighty, so this is the mixer. All right. So when you highlight any pad, you can go down to the bottom, and there's your controls for that pad. And with this wave play type highlighted, that's like the little mixer. Now there's some things that come, all of these settings are pretty standard the way they come in. You don't ever want to change those. But there's this one over here that you're going to want to change on every one of these pads. You want to take the dynamic switch. It usually comes on. You want to turn it off on every single pad. So that if you decide to start and hit pad 1, it's not going to, it's just going to start, and it's going to be as loud as it can be. But if you don't click this dynamic switch off, it's going to be as loud as how hard you hit it. It's dynamically controlled, because that sometimes they use these pads for drum sounds, and they want them to be soft or loud depending on how you hit it. When you trigger in your tracks, you want them to be full. You don't want them to be soft. We learned that the hard way, by the way. Figured that out. Why are the tracks so low today? Well, he was hitting this pad a little lighter that day than he did the previous time we played, and the levels were different because this switch was not turned off. You got to do that for every one of these pads and on every one of the kits. Just remember that. All right. So what I normally do is I get everything in, and then I put headphones on, and then I listen to the box. I tap it, and it starts, and then I can listen to the mix. And if the guide's not loud enough and the click's too loud, I just go in there and I just turn the click down, and I turn the guide up in my ears and to what I like, what we like. Same thing goes for the bass guitar. So you can do a good little mix out of this one thing, because this is selecting all the different parameters for each one of the pads. There, right there. You can do a little EQing. There's EQ for each one of these sections. Layer A EQ, layer B went on pad 1 is what I'm on now. Okay, now let's go to the output section. So right now, pad 1 is the click, and I always turn that off of. So the outputs of the box: master, left and right, direct 1, direct 2, and direct 3. Those are the outputs. They have 4. They have a fourth one that I don't use. So I always put most of the mix, everything except the bass, click, and drums, on the master, left and right out, and I mix it accordingly. And then I take the drums and I turn, and the click and the bass, and I turn them off the master here. That takes it off when you unclick it. And I send the click and the guide to direct out 1, and then I take that channel and plug it into the mixer on its own. The bass goes to direct out 2, and I take that channel and put it in. And then direct out 3 is, 1 is the click and guide, 2 is the bass, and 3 is the drums. So if I have a drummer, I just don't plug, and a bass player, I just don't use those channels. I just don't plug them into the mixer. That you don't have to turn them off, because they're separated. You're always going to use the click, so you always want to plug that in. And you're always going to have the master left and right mix of all of the instruments. Now let's just say that we are going to have a steel player tonight. Well, you would go in for this set, the specific set, and you would turn the steel off. And I didn't put the steel in. Let me grab that sucker. I actually put the wrong thing there. Let me fix that. This happens. This is a good example of moving fast. And of course, I'm talking and doing it, but there's the steel. You always need to check your work, double check your work, triple check your work, just like you need to check your files when you're bouncing them out of Pro Tools. It's just a good thing to check. So there's the steel, there's the fiddle. Now let's say we're gonna have a steel player tonight. You just turn it off, and you do it for every song. The steel, and it might take you 10 or 15 minutes, but you can turn the steel off because it's feeding in the stereo master left and right, along with the other acoustics, the percussion, the pianos, the guitars, all that stuff feeding on that main left and right mix going to the front of house. You can turn it off, turn it on. You can turn whatever you want off. You can do volumes. It's a great tool. It's a wonderful tool. Now let's go to the link section. So remember I said earlier that when you hit one pad like this, it starts all the pads, and all of these instruments, all of these tracks that are in there are going to start in sync. The way you achieve that is you put ones in all of these everywhere. See, both rows you hit ones. And so now all the pads are linked together. And when you hit any pad, any of the 9 pads, it's going to start the tracks all in sync. And it works every time. Been doing it for almost 5 years in our band. And the only thing that we've had problems with is user error. It's usually a human error. This box is stable and it's consistent and it sounds great. And we never have any trouble with the box itself. So it's always user error. And that is with anything else, right? It's much more stable to me than using like a computer with Ableton, because a lot of people aren't savvy. The computer is always going to get you. It's always going to freeze up or something in the middle of a show. Happens a lot. It happens to the big touring bands and it happens to the small guys in the clubs. So that's why I use this. I use this sampler instead. Beautiful, awesome piece of gear.